Have you been curious about yoga, but always thought that you weren't flexible enough, or shaped the right way, or wearing the right pants? Well, today's guest, Anna Ferguson, will help you think differently about that. She'll help you understand exactly why yoga is for people who breathe. Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 136 of Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. I'm Kimberly, your host, and I am super excited to be here with you today. Did You Bring the Hummus is a podcast for all things vegan. Before we get started, I have one very important question for you. Did you bring the hummus? Today, I am joined by Anna Ferguson of World Peace Yoga and Our Collective Heart. Anna has been studying and teaching yoga, meditation, and mindfulness practices for over 20 years. She's the founder of the vegan-centric nonprofit, Our Collective Heart, and co-creator of World Peace Yoga, a school of yoga in Cincinnati, Ohio, offering both online and in-studio classes. Anna is also the author of the book World Peace Yoga, Yoga for People Who Breathe. In her book, readers learn tools for creating inner peace through a variety of practices, including breathwork, meditation, and posture techniques, as well as plant source living. Anna is passionate about building community, compassionate living, and her wonderful son, Noah. In this episode, Anna shares her vegan journey. We talk about how westernized yoga has become exclusionary and what she is doing to combat that through her work at World Peace Yoga. Hi, Anna. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It is wonderful to be here.
I'm so excited to chat with you about all the things, but especially about yoga.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, this is going to be great. But before we get to that, as we always do here at Did You Bring the Hummus? And I always say we, and then I always feel like I have to say this is like I say we, even though it's just me, like I don't have a co host, right? But I always feel like the listeners are here with me already. And so I like to make it feel that way. So when I'm saying we, I think we is me and the listeners are curious about your vegan journey.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love, I often say we a lot too, even when it's just me, but I think it's like an acknowledgement too that we don't do anything alone. It's
Mm,
like no matter what we do, there's always other people involved in the process. It's like
yeah.
when you prepare a meal and you buy your groceries at the grocery store, there was so much that went into just getting your food to the grocery store so you could purchase and make a meal.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting to just speak from that we point of view because like we're not doing anything alone. So I love that. But
Me
thank you
too.
for
That's
sharing
great.
that. Yeah. So now remind me what your question was because I already forgot.
No problem. Share your vegan journey.
My vegan journey, yes. So so my vegan journey and my yoga journey kind of happened um almost simultaneously. And my friend in college introduced me to vegetarianism. She was my roommate, and I was curious and asking questions, and sometimes asking questions in like in a very questioning way, like, are you sure this is healthy, are you
Yeah.
like, but I was also genuinely curious too. And especially when I saw that she was feeling better and had more energy, I thought, I might like some of that too. And so I got really interested and just started mimicking, her diet and just exploring. And around that same time, I was also introduced to the practices of yoga. And what I found was that as I was practicing yoga, and when I was first introduced to yoga, it was primarily the postures, but at the end of my first yoga class, I remember lying down and experiencing this really amazing deep relaxation. And I left feeling calm and more peaceful. And that's what really got me on the yoga journey, is that deeper peace and calm that I received lying down on the mat after this physically demanding practice. So what I found is that after practicing yoga, that there were certain things that I just wasn't interested in, and or weren't appealing to me. So like certain foods I just naturally wasn't eating. And or even like certain people that maybe were not healthy for me to hang out with, that the kind of fell away from my life, like friends that maybe were drinking a lot or smoking and things like that. And those, I felt so good after practicing yoga that I really didn't want to put anything, I didn't want to consume anything, whether it was food or alcohol or even like, media, whatever it is. Like, I wanted to sustain that feeling of goodness and peace. So dairy kind of started to fall away, and eggs started to fall away, and it was just kind of this natural process. And I was in the midst of probably 6 months into exploring vegetarianism, and also about 6 months into my yoga journey, when I took a class with one of my longest yoga teachers, Doug Swenson. And he was the first teacher to really talk about yoga in relationship to food, introduced me to the concept of ahimsa and nonviolence. And that's when my vegan journey, I feel, really began, was when I had a solid reason beyond my personal health and feeling good, when my decision to eat this way became more from a place of other-centeredness versus self-centeredness. And I say self-centeredness in a loving way, because we have to take care of ourselves. And but it's very easy when you look at something as just a diet to say, oh, it's okay to eat that, go to the wedding, eat the cake that has the eggs and the dairy in it, because, it's not that big a deal just to have one piece of cake. But when you're doing it from the perspective of not harming an animal, then it's like, well, of course I'm not going to eat that cake, because that's beyond causing harm to me, that's causing harm to others. And I no longer wanted to participate in that. And so yeah, my yoga journey, I think, really enhanced my vegan journey and took me further than I may have gone on my own, just exploring vegetarianism. So yeah, those worlds definitely collided. And I will say that most of my teachers were not vegan. So it was like a breath of fresh air to find this teacher that was talking about the connections between yoga and food, beyond just eating a healthy diet, that it was more rooted in the environment and animal suffering and not harming others. And it just clicked for me. And that was when it was a conscious choice to be vegan, where before it was, I would say I was eating a plant-based diet because dairy was falling away, eggs were falling away, but it still wasn't like this conscious decision to be a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah how I came to veganism and yoga, really.
I really appreciate that you're here with me and you're sharing your journey because people need to hear this. And that's one of the reasons why I ask every single guest to share how they got here. Because when we can hear ourselves in others, I think it opens us up in a different way than if we had just been presented with information. So if somebody said to a listener, well, you like yoga, you enjoy doing yoga, like, do you understand the sutras? Do you understand what ahimsa means and how to incorporate that into your life? Like, they might not even entertain like being given this information to figure it out on their own. But then they hear you talk through how you made those connections, that you made these changes, and how you found yourself one day just making that decision. It can, I think, make someone who maybe would have just pushed that thought away pick up, a book and read again, or like dig into the concepts of yoga and see that connection for themselves. And I love that so much because, I've been doing yoga personally since my early 20s, and I went vegetarian, not long after that, I think, or it was like right after I started doing yoga. Either way, like you, they were very closely tied together. And I remember, like, I've met so many people who call themselves yogis, who teach yoga, who teach people yoga, and like to be teachers themselves. And they are not anywhere near considering veganism, let alone living it. And I've so often thought, like, what's missing when you have an understanding of that yoga is not just the postures, and then the postures are important, but not in the way that I think we've westernized them to be, that it's like, you're going to get a great butt if you do these postures. It'll be really impressive to stand on your head if you practice this. And so we've turned it into almost an exercise class than a holistic, just like being better at life kind of thing, which is how I see yoga. That's what it brings to me, is that it makes me better in all ways of my life. But I've just had a hard time understanding how people understand it and still don't make the connection.
Yeah, yoga has exploded in popularity, and there are more people practicing yoga today. I mean, there's millions of people that consider themselves yoga practitioners, as compared to, I don't know, like in the 60s and 70s. It's like blown up since then. And it was just, sort of starting to gain momentum and popularity, I feel like, in the 60s and the 70s. And then, like, compared to now, it's just exploded. And it's interesting because what has exploded in popularity is the practice of the postures.
Mm-hmm.
And so while there's so many more yoga practitioners today than there were maybe in the 60s and 70s, I do think that more of the people practicing in the earlier days of yoga coming to the US were practicing it more from a holistic point of view. And at that time, there were less practitioners overall, but more practitioners overall that were uh, eating a vegetarian diet, incorporating the other aspects of yoga philosophy into their life. And as we do in the West, we take, a piece of something and then run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other things start to get lost.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is that the postures have gained all this popularity and momentum, and the other teachings have to some degree been buried, or they're just harder to find people teaching them. And obviously the postures, the practice of the poses, it's an amazing practice. And I think that we're drawn to that. When I say we, I mean we as a culture in the West, in the United States, we're drawn to that because it's like instant gratification. You go to a posture-based class, you feel the benefits pretty much immediately. You go through the movements, you stretch your body out, you strengthen, you lie down, you relax, you leave, you feel better. Whereas the other practices take time to really notice the benefits, of a seated meditation practice. It really takes some time to get into it and be reflective. And same with diet and changing your lifestyle. Like, those are things that take time and take more effort, and it's not the kind of instant gratification that we like. And sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's hard to sit in stillness. It's hard to sit face to face with yourself. You have to look at your own shit. Like, who wants to do that? So and I think that the practice of vegetarianism, veganism, and yoga, that's kind of another way of looking at your stuff. Like, who am I causing harm to? Oh, I don't want to look at that. Yeah. So whether it's how you spoke to another human being today, or the other being that you ate today, it's like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. Don't talk to me about that. I've got enough going on. Like, and so we're just drawn to those instant gratification practices, but yet there's so much benefit when you take the holistic aspect of yoga and incorporate it into your life. And it's never too late. I think most people think that I was raised vegetarian, that my parents probably were yogis, and they were not. And I was raised in a Catholic family, large family, wonderful, beautiful family. They were not vegan. They were not vegetarian. I didn't have anyone, maybe one person in my family that kind of dabbled in vegetarian here and there. But for the most part, like, there wasn't anyone that was really an example for me. And so it's something that I came to when I left home, basically, and exploring, there's other ways to live. Look at that.
Who would have thought?
Who knew? So it's a journey. And I think that it's lovely to have support. It's lovely when your family is that support and can be that support. And if they're not, that's okay too. And there's other ways to find that. And it is a journey that we all come to on our own, and finding people to support, I think, is really valuable for sure.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that I know that you do, and that's important to you, is building that community. And you do that at your yoga studio, right? Do you want to share a little bit about that community?
Yeah. So World Peace Yoga has existed for about 20 years now, which is just kind of blows my mind to think that is the case. And we have been teaching posture-based yoga classes, meditation, and also offering vegan potlucks since the birth of the studio. And the potlucks are such a great way to just bring people together and share yoga off the mat. And even if someone is intimidated to bring food, they have the opportunity to just show up and just kind of explore and taste and see. And I love the name of your podcast, Did You Bring the Hummus? Because, in the early days of having potluck, sometimes we'd have a potluck and it would be like 10 different things of hummus,
Yep.
which personally, I can make a meal out of hummus, like no problem. But it's also nice to have a bit of variety at a potluck. So we started talking to people like who's coming and, maybe like, let's have a theme. And so we started doing themed based potlucks. Like we would have like an Italian theme or a Mexican theme and things like that. And to help kind of, not have just a whole table full of hummus. Even though that in and of itself could be a theme for a potluck, I feel is just like having a variety of hummus and different things to dip in the hummus and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I love bringing people together. I love sharing food. And I have an 11-year-old son and we love to cook together. And we also do cooking classes at the studio. I do think that for some people, they grew up in families where they ate at home a lot. Their parents cooked. They learned their way around the kitchen. They feel very comfortable. And then there's other people that feel totally intimidated by the kitchen. They feel anxiety about it. They just like from shopping at the grocery store to preparing the food, it just feels like a daunting task. So we also like to offer cooking classes to kind of put people more at ease with being in the kitchen and preparing a meal. So I think bringing people together and sharing yoga in the form that most people think of the postures, but then off the mat as well, bringing people together and sharing yoga through food. And that's what we do at World Peace Yoga, amongst other things. Yeah.
I love that so much. I agree. I think there are lots of people who do feel very intimidated by the kitchen. I used to be one of those people. Unfortunately, I did not have World Peace Yoga to help me get through that. I had to learn all on my own. But here I am and I've done it and it's wonderful. But I love that this yoga off the mat, because thinking that it's not just about when we're on the mat, what we're doing there. And there's something that you said, I think when you were on that vegan morning show, about embodying other beings when we're in yoga poses. Like we're in down dog, we become a dog, or, dolphin, or I think like puppy posture. So it's going back to dogs, but those are the first few that come to my head. And I love that even when we're talking about those postures, there still is this beingness of like who we're becoming while we're in them. And I just love so much your whole approach to yoga.
Yeah, it's that. I think that's the cool thing about it too, is like the poses, they like don't write off the poses because they're in and of themselves like very spiritual and very connected to compassion and I even though we have, as a culture, only really accepted the postures in and of themselves are so powerful. And, you know, the way I look at it and the way I understand the practice of the postures is it's a practice of putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And that is whenever we are able to take a pause and put ourselves in someone else's shoes and just imagine what it might be like for them, it develops greater empathy and compassion. And
Mm-hmm.
that is, that can change your whole day if to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're on your way to work, you're driving, you get cut off, and we have no idea what that person is going through. Maybe they have someone in their car that is about to have a baby and they are rushing to the hospital. Like, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I just like to imagine like that I'm putting myself in someone else's shoes. They're in a rush. It's probably important. And instead of just being angry and getting upset and think, oh, that to have more compassion and just, in terms of the mat, if you look at the names of the poses, they're all related to animals, aspects of nature, elements. It's all connected to animals in the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're learning from nature, and we're putting ourselves in the shoes of the cat, the cow, the tree. And when you do that, you begin to develop greater empathy and compassion for all forms of life. And it goes beyond eating animals. It's also looking at the environment and how can I consume less paper? How can I, so that we have these amazing trees? How can I consume less water to keep the water clean? And, what can I do to appreciate the earth even more? And that's what the practice of the poses is really teaching, is to put ourselves in the claws and the hooves and the fins, of these other beings, and to find a sense of oneness with them through cultivating deeper empathy and compassion. Yeah, I just love that. So it's like, it's not like, oh, we're poo-pooing the postures. That's an important part. But at the same time, like, there's all these other parts too. But the compassion part is also within the postures, whether it's practicing compassion for yourself and listening to your body and not pushing yourself, or the compassion aspect of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. It's like compassion for all of life, including yourself. And I just love that.
Yes, I have an experience. So I have been in a larger body for more of my life than not. And what that means, especially in the US and many other cultures around the world, is that I have often been viewed as insignificant, unimportant, my voice doesn't matter, gross, unattractive. Like, there are a lot of very difficult things that have come with living in a larger size body. So doing yoga, there are some poses where physically I really struggled to get into them. But there was one pose that emotionally I had a hard time getting into, and that was star pose. So anytime I did a yoga class or a yoga video where it said, put your arms up, stretch your legs out, and get into this star pose, I could not do it. And I would try, and I would never get my arms to go all the way up or my legs to go out, because I would immediately hear all of those voices. Stay small. don't take up space. You don't deserve to take up space. This is, you need to change before you can be worthy of this. And for years, I felt that and like physically could not get into this very simple pose for, my body structure. Like I'm able to do that. Physically, my arms and legs can do that, but I just couldn't bring myself. And then one day, it was probably like 4 years ago now at this point, I was on the mat. I was doing a yoga with Adriene video, and she said, get into star pose. And I said to myself, okay, we're going to try this today. And I had been, like I said, doing yoga for years, and I've been building to this and doing other work on myself and understanding what really mattered and which voices I would still allow in my head. And I took it slowly, and I put one arm out and then the other arm, and I stood there with my legs outstretched, fully in star pose, and I sobbed. And because the compassion that I was able to finally feel for me, for that little girl who was bullied and teased because of what she looked like, all the way up to that, 20 something who was told that nobody would ever date her because she was too fat, or, even then in my early 40s, still hearing those voices saying those things to me. I was able to love myself, to feel like I was worthy just by doing what essentially, for someone who can put their arms up and their legs out, is a very simple pose. And it changed everything for me, how I show up in the world, how I approach life. And so like we can, when we really look at yoga, there's so much more to it than I think we can even see sometimes. And like, there's this magic that can come from it when we really just allow ourselves to be with these poses, with the philosophy. I don't know, but it did. It changed everything for me.
What a powerful story. And thank you so much for sharing that and being so open and vulnerable about your experience. That is important for people to hear, and to also, like, for you to know why that was such a hard pose for you to do. Like, and I think it is challenging sometimes to shine our own light and acknowledge our gifts. We would rather hide our gifts, hide our light, because we're more comfortable doing it, because that's what we've been used to doing. And so it's almost like to put yourself out there and like be the gift to the world that you are, be the light. There's this unknown, and so it's scary. And so we tend not to like put ourselves out there because it's the unknown. And
right.
And that is such a, it's been a real practice for me to accept and receive like gifts that people give me. And that might be something as simple as, thank you, that was a wonderful class. And I might say, oh no, you were here, you showed up, it was all you. And, to just say something like, thank you, I like hearing that. And accept the gift that someone is sharing, that they enjoyed something that you offered. And I think it's a beautiful thing when we can just accept the gifts that we have and shine our light. And, I think it's in the yoga community and the yoga world, it's very sad that different bodies do not feel accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to Google and you type in yoga,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're basically, if you are a bigger body, if you're in if you're not white, flexible, strong, young, and wearing Lululemon clothes,
Yeah.
you are not welcome.
Mm-hmm.
That is the message.
Yeah.
You are not welcome to the yoga mat. That
Right.
is the message that we are. I partly want to say subliminally getting, but really it's the straight up message. Like,
mm-hmm.
we're being told we're not welcome.
Yeah.
Because if you have wrinkles, you have gray hair, you have more flesh on your body, you don't have the right clothes, you don't look a certain way, like, you're not welcome here. And
mm-hmm.
that is, I think, part of the work that we're working to do at World Peace Yoga, is to create a space where people do feel like they belong. And everyone wants to feel like they belong. It's like, who doesn't want to feel like they belong?
Right.
And like, yoga is meant to be a practice of feeling whole and like a feeling of belonging and feeling of connection. And yet most yoga spaces that you walk into, the immediate feeling that many people get is, I don't belong here. I don't feel welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel accepted here. And I think that as a teacher, that the atmosphere that we create and the cues that I use in my classes can create a sense of belongingness and acceptance and love, or can create competition or feelings of lack, whatever it may be. And even as simple as like how we cue options of how to get into a pose. And I like to say just simply, option 1, place your hands on your thighs. Option 2, place your hands on your shins. Option 3, maybe place your hands closer to your feet or your toes. Not, option 1, place your hands on your thighs if you're a beginner, and option 3, for those of you who are advanced, touch your toes. And it's like, let's just leave those quote unquote advanced terms out and just say, what feels good? What feels good for you today? Because I might be able to touch my toes, but maybe I don't want to today.
Mm-hmm.
And what feels good for my body right now as I'm breathing, and how can I cue in a way that just is getting people to tune in to what feels good for them in this moment. And what feels good in this moment may not have been what felt good for them yesterday.
Right.
And maybe yesterday they bent forward over their legs and they touch their hands to the floor. Great. Doesn't matter if you touch your hands to the floor or not, but that was yesterday's practice. That might not be today's practice. And to just give those options and give people like that, you're in the full expression of the form, whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's your fullest expression of the form, whatever you're choosing to do today, as long as you're breathing. And that is what I think is so cool about the practice of yoga in terms of the postures, is that as long as you're breathing, you're practicing yoga. You're not getting any benefit performing poses.
Yeah.
Performing the aesthetics of poses does not bring you the benefit. What brings you the benefit is to put yourself in a challenging pose. You want to be challenged by the poses, but to do that in you want to be in a position where you're able to breathe through that tension, breathe through that discomfort. If you are at a point in the pose where you're not breathing, then you've gone over the edge. You need to back away.
Mm-hmm.
And so the the practice is really about, it's not about the poses, it's about the peace. Yeah. So if you are not feeling peaceful in your practice and you're holding your breath and you're gritting your teeth and you're forcing your way to just look a certain way in the pose, there is absolutely no benefit in that. And in fact, you're just creating more stress on your body and for your yoga practice. Like, the whole point of the poses is to intentionally put your body in a stressful position and then handle that stress in a healthy way. So the poses are a way to train you to handle stress in a healthy way. Well, if you're just handling stress the way you always do, which is gritting your teeth, clenching your jaw, and forcing your way through it, then you're not getting any benefit from your yoga practice. You're just performing. You're performing the poses.
Yeah.
And so breath is key. Listening to your body is key. And how IQ as a teacher is important. And as a practitioner in a class, really listening to my body. Yeah. Listening to the teacher is great. They're a guide. They don't know what's going on exactly in your body. So any good teacher is going to tell you, you are your best teacher. Like, you have to listen, you have to tune in. And I think that when we start to do that more and more, we do accept ourselves more and we do love ourselves more. And we feel grateful to pause and rest versus feeling like we have to perform the poses and look a certain way. And, the quote unquote advanced practitioners are the ones lying down or in child. People are doing handstand because they realize, I don't need to do that today.
Yeah.
And I've had enough. Or maybe I have the energy to do it and I'm going to do it and I'm going to breathe through it. But either way, like, you're breathing and you're feeling good, you're not performing. And if you're breathing and feeling good laying down or pausing in child's pose, that's just as advanced as someone that's choosing to put their leg behind their head or go into a handstand or a headstand, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that. And you've touched on it a little bit as you've talked about this, but I love that your approach, your tagline and everything is yoga for people who breathe. And I love it because it kind of has for me, I see it reflecting two things. One is that everyone is welcome. That was the first thought that I had. Anyone can do yoga. We're all breathing. So we are all welcome to be part of this. And then the second one is the reminder to actually breathe. Like you were just saying, breathe through those poses, breathe into those poses. Like, so many times you can find your way into a pose and you notice you have a little extra tightness or there's some heaviness in a spot. And one of the things that I learned pretty early on in my yoga journey was the concept of breathing into that space. So like, you say that out loud and it may not make sense to a lot of people if they haven't tried it. That to me was one of those things I had to try first before I truly understood. But like, I have, let's say tightness in my hips as I'm in a pose that even like a butterfly or leaning over a little bit. And I feel that tightness as I breathe in, I like feel and imagine it not going into my lungs, not filling my belly, filling my hips. And then I can imagine as I breathe out that tension leaves my body. And then before I know it, I'm like deeper into that pose, or even just sitting down, I feel more connected and rooted to the earth because I've breathed into that tension and then let it out. And so I love this idea, this yoga for people who breathe, because it really, I feel like, brings us all together. What were you like? What did you think when you came up with that?
Well, thank you. It's, you know, that you described perfectly, like that it is a practice for everyone, and we're all living, breathing bodies. So if you're if you're breathing, you can practice yoga. And so that was the first thought with that tagline, that yoga is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the poses are for everyone, but there's some aspect of yoga that is for everyone. And maybe it's just the breath and taking a mindful breath. And I've had this conversation with many vegans that maybe have a certain attitude about yoga, like, oh, well, I can't put my leg behind my head. I'm not flexible, or, and not just vegans, just people in general, just like, there's they just don't think they are able to practice yoga. But especially within the vegan community, I just remind people, if you are practicing eating mindfully and choosing to eat in a way to cause the least amount of harm to the earth and to fellow beings, you're practicing yoga, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you might not be practicing the poses, but you are practicing an aspect of yoga that is like part of the core tenet of the practice. So, those that are ethical vegans are already engaged in a yoga practice, in my opinion. And but yeah, the idea that this is for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
This is a practice that's for everyone.
I love it. And, this theme kind of runs through everything that you do, because even you have a yoga teacher training called Compassion for All Yoga Teacher Training, right? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And, you've got this nonprofit called Our Collective Heart. So everywhere we turn within Anna Ferguson's world, we are bringing people together, no matter who they are, what they look like, where they live, what their life experience is. We can all come together in the physical or virtual space with you and find our place. And that's just such a beautiful thing when we look out at what is going on in so many areas of the world where people are not feeling safe, they're not feeling protected, loved, cared for. They're not feeling compassion coming their way. To know that there are like these little pockets in the world like you and what you've created is it's really important. And I'm so glad to have met you and to be part of your world. But before we wrap up, I'd love if you could just share a little bit about Our Collective Heart, and also what else people can expect if they swing by World Peace Yoga.
Yeah. So at World Peace Yoga, we're in Cincinnati, Ohio, but we do have weekly classes that we stream live online.
Nice.
So for those in the vegan community that are looking to connect with yogis and teachers that embrace this lifestyle, then you can always connect with us online, and we offer first month free to check out classes. So definitely be part of the community, whether you're far or close. And we've been offering yoga teacher training at World Peace Yoga for 20 years. And it's mostly been through, in-person courses and connecting with people in Cincinnati. And I wanted to offer a course that would reach beyond Cincinnati for maybe those people that are, especially that are vegan, that want to take a yoga teacher training with someone that shares their values. Or maybe they don't necessarily want to become a certified yoga teacher, but they just want to go deeper into their practice, and engaging in a yoga teacher training is a great way to do that. So Our Collective Heart is a nonprofit that I started, and I organize the Cincy Veg Fest here in Cincinnati. And so that event falls under the nonprofit, as well as this Compassion for All yoga teacher training, which is an online course that is designed to be accessible from the perspective of it's self-paced, you do it on your own time, but also it's more accessible from a budget point of view for people to participate in it. And so that is an offering. And I know for me, in my yoga journey, when I did become vegan, first of all, I was so blessed to be introduced to such an amazing teacher early on, Doug Swenson, that was a vegan and brought me more fully into yoga as a holistic practice. And I found that it was really important to me to have more teachers like that. Not that you can't learn from anybody anywhere, because life is a teacher, but I really wanted to invest my time and my money, and I wanted to give to those that shared my lifestyle. And so it became really important that if I was going to spend money on a teacher training course, that I really wanted to be supporting the trainings and the teachers with that really shared my values. So, and I was having a hard time finding a lot of people that did that. And so this is just another option for those that are looking for something like that, to dive in a little bit deeper and to know that it's with people that share your vegan values. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Anna, thank you so much. I've got one more question for you.
Yes.
How does hummus show up in your life?
Oh my goodness. So first of all, I love hummus, and I love exploring different flavors and different ways of making it, but I also just like the traditional hummus. And I'm also experimenting with black sesame seed tahini hummus right now, which is pretty amazing too. But it's always showing up in my life because it's something that I make on a regular basis, but it's just such an easy go-to also. And recently I was on a trip with my family, and we went to a Mediterranean place, and they had the creamiest hummus. And I just remember asking, like, what is your secret? How do you get it so creamy? And probably people that are hummus lovers know this tip. But for those of you that don't, one is to overcook the chickpeas. And the other is to, when you are blending it in the food processor, to do it with ice. And that just gives it this creaminess and richness. And yeah, my family was just laughing at me like, what's the secret recipe, and like, how do you get it so creamy? And then, I was the one that, and of course, my family's not vegan, but they love the hummus, right? So once I did the test at home, it was like I had to report back and let them know if it worked, and it did work.
Awesome.
And it was so good. But yeah, hummus is always showing up in my life. And the one thing that I have not tried yet, but I'm sure it's amazing, is the chocolate sweet hummus.
Oh yeah.
But I have tried the this isn't really hummus, but the the cookie dough made with chickpeas.
Oh.
Cookie dough with chickpeas, and that is actually amazingly good. So it does
Mm.
have tahini in it, and it's not a lemon juice, but it is a chickpea thing. So chickpeas are always showing up in my life. I love chickpeas.
I gotta tell you, chickpeas showing up as cookie dough, I am here for that.
Oh my gosh, so good. Yeah, it's like blended up chickpeas. So instead of tahini, peanut butter, chickpeas,
Mm.
a little bit of sweetener, whatever sweetener you like to do, maple syrup, agave. I love monk fruit and chocolate chips. I mean,
Mm.
really that simple. It's like high protein. It's delicious. I love it.
Yes. Well, I know what I'll be making at some point this week, so thank you for
Yes,
that.
yes, yes.
Anna, thank you really so much for being here with me tonight. I have loved this conversation. Thank you for being who you are and just showing up in the world with so much kindness and compassion and just that welcoming energy that you have. I really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you for being a bright light and a beautiful host. It has been a pleasure.
Welcome back. To connect with Anna, visit her website, worldpeaceirl.com. Follow her on Instagram and Facebook at Anna Ferguson Peace. As always, the links will be in the show notes so you can click right in and get right there. I hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're loving it, please give Did You Bring the Hummus a 5-star rating and leave a review. It's an easy way to keep supporting the show. Be sure to share these episodes with your friends. If you're finding something good here, they will too. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Did You Bring the Hummus, and visit my website, didyouBringTheHummus.com, for more information about me, updates on what I'm working on, new podcast episodes, and all things vegan. Tune in next time for my interview with the happiest doctor around, Dr. Michael Clapper, joining me to talk about his latest book, Moving Medicine Forward. Thanks for listening.